an area that I've explored myself. um, in terms of state of mind and yeah, when you suddenly feel like you're in the middle of the Colosseum in Rome, and uh, every and the joint's packed, and everyone's just staring at you, waiting for you to meet the lion.
Dizzy, dizzy, dizzy. Oh, and if I
Thank you both for taking the time. It's great to speak with you.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks for watching. Thanks for checking it out.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And I'm sorry for the loss of Boston George Young yesterday.
Yeah. I you know, I I I I can only see George with a big fucking smile on his face. I truly, um, it's a huge loss, because that man lived life uh, with no qualms about. I mean, he was fearless. He was very special, man. I yeah, I he taught me a whole lot, man. He was a very special guy. He was he was the prison philosopher, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great loss. I'm sorry again.
Yeah,
But let's talk
thank you.
about Minamata, and because obviously I think it's a really powerful film. Bringing to life the story of one of the most important photographers who's ever lived. One of the most important journalists of the last 100 years. But I
Yeah,
wanted to start with your guys' relationship. Because obviously taking on a project like this to make it work, you really have to trust each other. So what were you able to find in each other, and how were you able to find that trust with each other in order to bring his story and the story of Minamata to life?
we had there was a meeting set up between Andrew and myself, um, at my house in Los Angeles, and Andrew came over, and you talk about the film, and you talk about the approach, and you talk about all that stuff, and then you know usually should last about 2 hours if it's a good one. 8.5 hours, 9 hours, we were there, sitting outside in this like gazebo thing, from bright burning sun to like a kind of a cold night. We'd sat there just yakking, man, about everything, about art, about cinema, about life, and of course certainly the project. And I knew instantly that he was the guy, because he knew it, he got Gene, um, and uh, he was he had done all the most preparation that you could possibly do, but at the same time was willing to take all that work and keep it in the back of his mind, but stay on his toes to enough to say, I think that if we do this here as opposed to over there, it's going to have more of an impact visually, or whatever it was. There was a sense of first, a huge sense of collaborative effort between not just like Benoit Delhomme, the cinematographer, and Andrew, and myself, or the other actors. There was a kind of an open communication for pretty much anyone to make a suggestion. Any of the Japanese extra Andrew extras with Andrew asked, uh, you know, if there's anything that you see incorrect, you know, please, and you know, help us out. And many people did. In fact, Hero took over basically building signs, and you know, this is it. It was Hero's the great actor. His last name is
Sonata.
difficult. Huh?
Sonata, Hiro Sonata.
Sonata. Um, he was painting signs on the weekends. He would, or on his days off. He was helping the Japanese extras um, uh, act, teaching them, you know, acting, you know, giving them acting lessons. In fact, I mean, he was above and beyond. So it was really, really a collaborative effort that that Andrew and the other producers, and but myself and Benoit Delhomme were willing to roll the dice in terms of, you know, fuck structure, fuck fuck 3 act structure, fuck rules, fuck uh, you know why, and especially in a film like this, it was a brilliant choice because it's sometimes you're just in Gene's mind. Sometimes you're, you know, so it was about the most free I've ever felt. No one was in fear of my character, which is unusual for me.
And just and to add to that, like, off that first meeting, it just became clear that Johnny and I, spoke the same language, and
Yeah.
on the same tones and reference points, and it looked at filmmaking through a similar lens, which I think wasn't really a lens at all. I don't think that we approached filmmaking as the way that a traditional filmmakers would, or a actor or a director would. I think it was about, creating something and making an art project. Of course, it was important to us what the results were, but it was about really experiencing it and putting ourselves in a position to be really free and be open and collaborative. And so we had a set that, Johnny gives me credit for it, but it was he's the one who sets the tone for it, and everybody was able to come to work with a very open heart and an open mind. And so together, the reason I think this film works, even though it's non-traditional in many ways, is because everybody was absolutely pulling in the same direction, and everybody was there every day and excited to be at work, whether we were prepping or we were shooting. And it was
And we and every sorry,
oh, please.
go ahead. I was going to say that everyone was well aware that um, there was this collective kind of fact, this collective conscious sort of everyone was working everyone stayed in their lane, essentially. um, and worked like, I mean, all sort of levels of the crew, from the craft service people to the upper echelon. We were all working with the same intent, with the same intentions, and with the same goal. And there were plenty of times when suggestions were made by, like, a little kid. A little kid would want to play with some ball in the scene or something, and man, sure, play with, it was you never really quite knew what you were going to get, but there's certain films I've done where you know that you're working on something very special, You know, you just know it's and to be able to uh well you know, how how do you say you're so sorry, you're sorry to an entire fishing village, you know, who were devastated by mercury poisoning, and how do you tell their story, you know? That was a big piece of it was a big thing to but you know, take a bite of. And Andrew never choked once, man.
Mm.
It was it was just felt very organic, the whole thing, you know. And
And telling
Eileen
Gene's
was
sorry, in telling Gene's story though, I mean, obviously, you know, there's a through line in your characters that these are, you know, remarkable men who are, you know, broken and misunderstood. What did Gene provide you that other characters hadn't? You know, when he's at a certain point in his life, you know, at going through the hardest point in his life, but also the most remarkable and the most powerful work of his career. I mean, what was that like in order to get yourself into as an actor?
it's an area that I've explored myself.
Mm.
um, you know, in terms of state of mind and yeah, when you suddenly feel like you're in the middle of the Colosseum in Rome, and uh, every and the joint's packed, and everyone's just staring at you, waiting for you to meet the lion. um, I, 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 I mean, I think, you know, one of the things that Andrew and I really connected on, first and foremost, was that this film was always going to be for those people. Do you know what I mean? And also obviously there's an enormous responsibility to Gene Smith. There's an enormous responsibility to Eileen. There's huge, monumentally, like, you know, surreal salute to these people who experience this horror, you know. Um, so to be able to be lucky enough to just stumble into a character like a Gene Smith, who, to me, like I said, I have felt where Gene's at in the beginning of that of in the beginning of Minamata, and it's a lonely place, but it's a good place, because he needed a fire under his ass. Otherwise, he knew that he was just going to be some miserable bastard that his friends wouldn't talk to anymore. I mean, you know, he was going to make people miserable, you know, and so it gave him um, uh, uh, I hate to put it in these terms because it sounds like some award thing, but it gave him another shot at his crown.
Mm.
And
It's
I think at that age, when he was separated from his whole world, essentially, it, it meant a lot to him. He needed it, you know. What were you
also,
gonna say, my brother?
sorry, dude. There's just a little delay on the thing. It's also worth noting that, you know, Johnny and Gene share something that's very special, which is an outlook on the world. And I'm speaking for Johnny. He's gonna hate me for it, but it's, they share an incredibly
We're both miserable bastards.
it's not true. It's not true. They both share this ability to see the very best in the people around them, and to see the very best, and want to be part of the solution, and to see love, and to see joy, and to see goodness in people and in the world, in the most fucked up places. And it's such a special quality, and it's so unique. And you know, and Johnny's the only actor that, in my opinion, could have played this role right, because it's so unique. In any moment, Gene Smith, seeing the worst of the world, he'd still have hope and love, and it would project out in his images. And Johnny's the same way, and so in these scenes and in these moments, no matter how much he wants to hide it, it's there. He sees that goodness in people. He has that hope for the world. It's so beautiful and special, that I think that, to me, was the thing that connected them the most, and the thing that was unreplicatable by anybody else. And I think it really is expressed in the film very much. And I also, it's worth saying that I think Johnny's probably the only actor of his category that, would have agreed to make a film where, he says like 10 lines in the last 20 minutes of the movie. I mean, in the third act of the film, Gene and Johnny takes a big step back, and it's a huge credit to Johnny as an artist, to always put the story and the people and the objective first, and push that element of the story first, and in front, and take a step back. And it was quite a remarkable thing. And we had talked about that in that first meeting that we talked about, and it's quite incredible, and special to see that happen, because it's just not something that you often see. So
I thank you, man. That's very kind. That's super kind.
Dizzy, dizzy, dizzy. Oh.